Hi, today I have a special guest doing a video demonstration for us. We're going to talk about competencies and release conditions and a slightly more complicated situation where you might put on multiple release conditions. Her name is Kristen Hatzadeh. I can't say. Her name is. Yeah, I think we should leave that in. Her name is Kristen
Hatzadakis.
and she's the English teacher for TDA, and she's going to take it from here. So take it away, Kristen.
Okay, so this is in one of my English classes. It's early on, and I wanted to get a sample writing from the students, and I want them to focus on revising that writing for any of the competencies that they did not achieve. So I have a Dropbox where they submit a sample writing. It is tied to a rubric. So the rubric has, for example, a criteria that is topic sentences, a criteria that is paragraph details, a criteria that is transitions, all the things that the smaller skills that you want them to meet the competency that they need to show those smaller objectives. So what I did then was, once students submit that and I grade it, I wanted to tie the lessons in week 3 to those specific learning objectives. So if they did not meet them, something would open up, a lesson would open up that would help them with that particular learning objective. All right, so what I need to do with my Dropbox is tie my learning objectives to it, and then tie those objectives to the rubric, and then set my threshold level of what is going to be considered mastered. So there's 3 steps here. First, in the Dropbox, click on Add Learning Objectives, and then I get my list of things here, and I can choose what I want, details, for example. All right, and so then I go to Add Selected, and I would add the selected, whichever one it is, I would add it. Then I will see details here, and I need to edit that. Add an assessment. I can select my rubric. It's the paragraph rubric. And then I can choose, so if I'm working on details, I choose details. And then I want to make sure that I click this activity is required to complete the learning objective. And then my last step here is to set it to whatever I want. Maybe you want them to score above average or excellent, you can do that. But whatever you choose, it's going to be that level and above to show mastery. So once we've set up the Dropbox, we need to go to the next group of lessons, the remedial lessons that we want to open up, and we need to tie those release conditions into the content on the rubric. So what I did for that is I just went to the lesson, and then down at the bottom I can add a restriction. I go to Create.
So you put the release condition on the content you want to release.
Correct.
When they
based on their rubric score.
Mm-hmm.
So
you would not put that on the Dropbox?
No, I tied the Dropbox to the objectives, but then I created the release conditions based on the lessons that I wanted to open up. So I come down here to competencies, and it's not a competency that this is attached to. Competency would be the whole writing assignment. It's the specific objective. So I click on Learning Objective Not Yet Achieved, and then I get a list of my learning objectives. This one was for details. So in the rubric, when I grade, if they did not achieve this learning objective, the criteria in the rubric that was labeled details, I just create it. And
where is it? There.
And there it is. So now if they submit something and they don't pass that or master that, then this lesson will open up for them. They won't see any of the other lessons. I mean, there's one for each of the, at least one for each of the parts of the rubric. And then there's also one in case, somewhere in here I thought there was one in case they did really, really well. Yeah. So like I've got one here, strengthening your writing. If they passed all of them, there's still always room to grow. So that's for those kids. That will be the only lesson that opens for them because they passed all of them. But maybe they didn't get a 5 on all of them. They only got a 4. So this will open up for them. So there's something for everyone.
Now, why did you go with the pass objective release condition versus the rubric score one, since you're talking about rubric scores?
So I didn't want to use the score on the associated rubric because it actually doesn't do the same thing that the learning objective not achieved does. When you click on score on associated rubric and you select your learning objective, then you then you pick your rubric and you go to the specific criterion. When you hit this, for example, if I set it to proficient, the threshold to proficient, it's going to then open this lesson for kids who score proficient, above average, or excellent. It's not going to open it for kids who score beneath those. So this is a release condition that you can set if the student has mastered the content and you want them to move on. This might be the one to choose. However, if you want the objective, you want this to open up if the objective is not achieved, then you need to use this one, and it just simply will open up lessons based on what they scored on the rubric. So if they scored a limited or an unacceptable, it will open up because I set it in the rubric to read as objective achieved if it was proficient or above. So anything below that now will open up. So here's a student who has submitted the Dropbox, but you can see I haven't graded it yet. So week 3 is not open. What I'm going to do is go and grade that, and then we'll see what assignments pop up for him. Okay, so now I am in a Dropbox where a student has submitted her writing, and I'm going to just give it a quick read through, and really what I'm looking for is just 2 things, maybe 3 things that she can improve on. So I use my paragraph rubric, and keep in mind anything that I mark at proficient or above, she did fairly well on, and we're not going to worry about remedial lessons. Anything that gets marked limited is something that I want the student to work on. I'd like to see her add details. The organization is fine. So I'm just going to go through and mark these. And save and record it and publish it. And now, since she had low marks on details and sentence structure, those should be the lessons that open up for her in week 3. Now that I've graded that student's work, we're in week 3, and we can see that she had some trouble with sentence variety and run-on and fragment sentences. So those are the things that opened up for her, as well as another Dropbox so that she can go through those lessons and then hopefully revise for those problems and then submit her final paragraph.
So we hope that this little demonstration gave you some ideas for how to set up competencies in your course and hopefully made you feel a little more comfortable using them. This is Corey
And Kristen
saying thanks for watching.